Hi, I am Yogesh Gute. Today's point is Institutional Review Board. Now, an IRB is an administrative body whose primary responsibility to protect the rights, safety, and welfare of human research subjects, also known as the Independent Ethics Committee (IEC) and Ethical Review Board (ERB) or a Research Ethics Board. The body ensures that human subject research adheres to ethical standards such as respect for persons, beneficence, and justice in the practice application. And institutional review board is designed to review, approve, and monitor research involving human subjects. An institution or organization establishes an institutional review board committee in accordance with international guidelines or local law. For example, in the US of the Office for Human Research Protections of the Department of Health and Human Services governing uh, institutional review boards and includes regulations that mandate additional protections for vulnerable populations. In institutional review board is not a scientific review committee, a paper review committee, a committee responsible for employee medical records, a legal counsel, a privacy board, unless designated a risk management or safety board, a data safety monitoring board, unless designated a research founding office or an editorial service. Now, IRB exits. IRB has begun to form following discoveries of crimes against humanity committed with the justification that they were necessary for the advancement of science and research during World War II. Nazi doctors and scientists conducted experiments on the prisoners without consent after they were put on trial for this war crimes. In 1946, ethical rule for the conduct of human experimentation, known as the Nuremberg Code, were developed. The Nuremberg Code outlined 10 research ethics principles for conducting research with human subjects. The code states the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. The experiment should be such as to yield fruitful results. Anticipated results justify the performance of the experiment. Now, the experiment should be so conducted as to avoid all unnecessary physical and mental suffering and injury. Now, no experimental should be conducted where there is a prior reason to believe that death or disability injury will occur. Then degree of risk to be taken should never exceed that determined by the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. Now, proper preparation should be made and adequate facilities provided to protect the experimental subjects. The experiment should be conducted only by scientifically qualified person. During the course of the experiment, the human subject should be at laboratory to bring the experiment to an end. During the course of the experiment, the scientist in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment at any stage. Later, in 1964, the World Medical Association establishes the Declaration of Helsinki. This declaration provides a set of ethical principles for medical research involving human subjects. It confirmed the idea that the well-being of the human subjects should take process over the interest of science and society. In the US, another immatures for institutional review boards come after revaluation about US Public Health Service study title. The Tuskegee study 190-192, which showed that researchers withheld treatment from subjects who suffered from syphilis even throughout penicillin was an accepted treatment in 1943 and available for syphilis treatment in 1952. In order to track the disease full progression, thrust in 1974, the National Research Act established regulatory protections for human subjects. The National Research Act also founded the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research, which in 1979 wrote the Goldman Report, the cornerstone statement of ethical principles for the treatment of research subjects in the US. The Goldman Report summarizes three basic ethical principles and guidelines for resolving ethical problems. The surrounds the conduct of research with human subjects. It distinguishes medical practice treatment from research. While practice solved enhances the well-being of an individual, patients or silent research test hypothesis permits a conclusion to be drawn and develop and contributes to generalized knowledge. The Bellman's report establishes three important ethical principles. Now, first one is respect of person. Individual must be treated as autonomous agents. Individuals with diminished autonomy are entitled to protection. This requirement demands in most cases that research participants be provided with adequate information about the study throughout the process of informed consent, and participants enter into research voluntarily. Beneficents individually must be treated in an ethical manner by respecting their decisions, protecting them from harm and making efforts to secure their well-being. This committee is an obligation to protect persons from harm by maximizing anticipated benefits and minimizing possible harms. Now, the justice, the benefits and burden of research must be distributed fairly. The participants of individual must be the outcome of a fair selection process. Those who bear the burden of the research must be provided the opportunity to benefit from the research This committee mandates that an essential of the risk and benefits of the research to the subject and society be conducted. The Belmont's reports informed that United States federal regulation of the protection of human research subjects, which established the responsibility of United States investigators and other receiving United States federal funding for human subjects research to submit research activities for institutional review board review. If any part of an activity includes research and involved human subjects, the activity must be reviewed to ensure the protection of human subjects. What does IRV do? An IRV reviews proposed research to determine if participants in the study will be placed at physical, psychological, social, or other risks. If so, they certify that the following conditions have been be criteria approved by the research. Now, risk to be subjects are minimized in several ways to in the institutional review board. Risk to subjects are reasonable in relation to anticipated benefits. Selection of subjects in equitable. Informed consent will be sought. Informed consent will be documented when appropriate. Provisions for monitoring the data collected to ensure the safety of subjects are in place. Adequate provisions are in place. Protect the privacy of subjects. Maintain data confidentiality. Additional safeguards are in place when some or all of the subjects are vulnerable or to coercion or undue influence due to gender, age, disability, class, caste, immigration, state, etc. The Institutional Review Board also ensures that participants and their guardians are fully aware of the purpose of the research and what they will be asked to do. Risk related to participation and protections in place to minimize risk. Benefits to participants, to other, and benefits to society. Any compensation they will receive for participation, the voluntary nature of their participation, this their ability to withdraw from the study at any time without any form of the penalty. The Institutional Review Board reviews approved research at interval the board feel are appropriate to the degree of risk involved. 3 months or after 20 participants are enrolled, but no less frequently than annually. Lastly, it review any modification to the research plan and approved study document prior to implementations unless the modification is required to eliminate an immediate hazards to participants, in which case in the institutional review board may review after the change has been implemented. such as data collection tools, consent form, or requirement materials. What value does institutional review board review and the research process? The institutional review board provides an independent, non-biased review of research. It ensures ethical conduct and compliance with applicable laws, regulations, policies, and best practice. It protects against placing individuals at risk of harm unnecessarily without their consent and without protection in place to minimize risk. Many countries' government agencies, such as the United States Agency for the International Development, international institutions, and private donors such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, requires institutional review board review for research involving human subjects which they found. Institutional review board review may also be required in order to publish the results of research. In addition, when research is conducted in a foreign country, researchers must adhere to the requirements of the host country. Institutional review board review may be required in order to obtain permission. Example, a government issued research permits and our local ethical review from the host country. In country institutional review board review, Ministry of Health review may be required. Now IRB works in order to perform its duties per the United States regulation, and IRB must have the written procedures determining which human subjects research requires an institutional review board review, including criteria for risk. Now the expedited review eligibility, the conducting an initial and continued review of research, including verification of the extent to which approval criteria have been met, reporting its finding and action to the investigator and the institution, determining which project requires review more often than annual, determining which projects need verification from sources other than the investigators, that no material changes have occurred since the provisions institutional review board review, ensuring that prompt reporting of the institutional review board for processed changes in the research activity, ensuring that changes in approval research are not initiated without institutional review board and approval, except that when necessary to eliminate apparent and immediate hazards to the subjects, ensuring prompt reporting to the IRB's appropriate institutional official and the sponsor, or further any unanticipated problems involving risk to subjects or others, any serious or continuing non-compliance with the requirements or determination of the institutional review board, any suspension or termination of institutional review board approval. Thank you.